Hello, friends! Welcome back to another reading wrap-up. I really need to do something about the background of videos. I apologize. It's not the most elegant, but this is where my PC is, and this is where we're doing it. As always, I'm your host, Sam. I don't think I ever introduced myself, but hi, I'm Sam, and I like to talk about books. And we are going to do a reading wrap-up for October and November. I had recorded my one for October, but I hated the way it came out while I was trying to do edits. And so I said, yeah, we're just wiping our hands of it and we're doing the whole thing fresh. I have all my books over here so I can, oh gosh, that's so bright. Bear with me. There we go, a little less bright. So, starting off October. I read quite a few arcs. I think I read 6 books in total. 3 were arcs, advanced reader copies, 3 were not. First one I read is called The Last Hour Between Worlds. This one was interesting. This is the first book by Melissa Caruso that I have ever read. I believe she has another, also so sorry if you just heard my knuckles crack. I do believe she has another series that's finished or is in progress. But this one it's definitely fantasy, but it feels also sci-fi-y, or it felt sci-fi-y to me. And it is released. I highly suggest picking it up. I want to pick up a physical copy after Christmas, because we're on a book buying ban right now. Um, but your main character is this woman named Kimbrel, who you find out she's going to this party. She just had a baby. Like, she is still postpartum. I believe it's like 3 or 6 months, 3 to 6 months postpartum. So like still like not 100% like, yeah, I'm good with taking care of a newborn by myself. Yeah, sure. So she goes to this party that's supposed to be for her work, and many a chaos ensues. She gets pulled back into her job, even though she keeps being like, I'm on maternity leave, don't talk to me, I don't want to talk about work. And it's because things are happening that she's getting pulled down into the echoes, and the echoes are like, this is our base world, and then echoes are just like underneath, and they just get stranger and stranger and stranger and stranger. um and she's one of the only ones who's like, as I think it's called a hound, if I'm remembering correctly, that has gone quite far down in echoes and made it back alive. So we've got, we've got this game, and there's essentially like the gods of that universe. They're playing games, and she gets caught in the middle. We have, she's a queer character, either bi or pan, but she just had a baby, but she's in love with her nemesis, and her nemesis, she's a cat, so it's more like kind of like a spy or a thief. And it's really interesting, and it's hard to give away a lot of the details without giving away the book. So I'm gonna just highly recommend you go take that. I will say the first 30-ish%, because it's kind of info dumping of this is what echoes are, and so that as you continue on in the book, you are understanding what the hell is going on. So it is a little slow, but I promise it is worth it. Again, that is The Last Hour Between Worlds. Then I think we had another arc. Yes. So the next one I read is called We Shall Be Monsters by Alyssa Wees? Wees? Not sure the pronunciation. I'm always going to mess up pronouncing things. So sorry. So this one is another one that it was the first 30%. It was a little rough to get into, but I really enjoyed it. So it is more, I guess, on the dark side of fantasy, but not in like the dark romance way. So like, if that's what you're looking for, that's not this one. And so you have our two main female characters. You have Gemma, who's young. I believe she's like 13, 12 or 13 when the book is like starting, or she's about to turn that age. And her mom is like, no, no, no forest, nothing. No, we're not doing it. And of course, when that happens, you know what it means? That Gemma is incredibly enchanted by the forest. Like, she's just like, I gotta be in there. There's something out there for me. And she sneaks and she goes, and you find out very, very quickly. Mama Bear's like, yeah, no, we're taking those memories away. We're gonna brush her hair and we're gonna take away those memories. Which comes back to bite her in the ass because there's something out there. There's something that wants that family. And Mama Bear pays for ridding Gemma of those memories that she had of meeting the Fae and running around in the forest. Again, you find this all early, very early on in the story. It did take that little bit to get interesting, but once it hit there, it was really cool to see how Alyssa was like talking about the Fae. Because one thing that can sometimes drive me nuts about fantasy books with fays are all like 9 times out of 10 they're always described as beautiful and like gorgeous, and the whole idea of folklore is these fae, these creatures, they're not always beautiful. They can be grotesque and scary, and she leans into that. So it's something I really appreciate as somebody who genuinely really loves folklore. Um, so yeah, both of those are out. Go pick it up. I'm not sure if it's on Kindle Unlimited. I'm not sure if either of these are, but I think they're worth it. Um, this one is a standalone. The previous one is part of at least a duology. Then we have, which happy book release to A Crown Forged in Blood, because this will be coming out today, December the 10th, which is release day. I will link it below. I made an entire video dedicated to this arc. Thought it was really, really good. This is Poppy's first book. And again, what I said in the video is my review. I knocked it down from a 4-star because there was just repetitive language and things, but she has a Discord server. She wanted our feedback. So, and seeing my review, when I typed it out and made a little graphic fun things, she said that that was something that she went back to go look at. But this is fairy tales, not fairy tale per se, but a fae story. You've got fated mates. You know, you got to save the world. There's queer romance, kick-ass, interesting side characters who I'm very excited to see what she does with them. But yeah, go watch that video to learn more about it. And I don't remember if I put my favorite quote. Bear with me one second. I'm gonna find my quote. We've got it. So my favorite quote in A Crown Forged in Blood is, "Don't let one man's presence forget that you are powerful. You are the moon. Do not bow to the stars." I loved that line. So if you want more stuff like that, highly recommend it. It's great. Go support Poppy. She's super, super sweet, and I'm very grateful to have been on her arc team. All right. Now we're getting into, those are all the arcs that we've done for October. Now we've got a good old mystery thriller thing going on. This is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This I had trouble with this one, mostly because you're kind of like thrown into this thing, and then there is POV switching, but it's also time jumping. So you're at different points in time, and that just threw me for a loop. So the premise of this book is you are following a camp counselor, right? One of her charges from her little thing goes missing, and her name is Barbara. You find this out very, very early on. And she's not just anyone. She's not just a Joe Schmo coming to camp. No, she's by the family that owns the camp. So if you're trying to solve the mystery of what happened to Barbara and where the hell she is, as well as another mystery from that same family. And it's just drama. It's got a lot of drama. But I think it's just the way it is written. If I had known going into it that it was going to be multiple POV switches with uh, time jumps in the storyline, I feel like I might have had a better time reading it. So I do think it is worth the read if you like mysteries, you like thrillers, and if you are hesitant, just like know that going in, and I feel like it is going to be a much better time for you. I wish I had known. I didn't do that much research, excuse me, but I also didn't want to have things spoiled. So, all right, I believe one more book for right. Okay, two more books. Next one I read was The Drowned Woods by Emily Llyod-Jones. I have a bone to pick with Emily Llyod-Jones. I think the world she writes super interesting. Sometimes the characters, it's just I just don't want to read them. Does that make sense? World, yes. Characters, no. Um, so this also is supposed to take place in the same world as her story, excuse me, called The Bone Houses, which I loved. The Bone Houses. I thought it was great. Um, so you've got someone who can use magic. Her nickname is Myrrh. Um, she gets sold by her family to the king's spy master. Again, this happens right off the bat. Basically, like, oh, happy childhood, just kidding. No, no. And it's she's like trying to run away from that life, and of course, she gets captured. And it's just this crazy mission on to save the kingdom that she was trying to run away from. There's a love story in there, which I don't really think. Maybe that's what it was. It might have been that love story that I thought it. I don't feel like it needed to be there, and I think in a way it kind of took away from what was going on around everything. So I think that's what it is. Like the characters make me just world, the concept, and then just God damn it, Emily Llyod-Jones, please. You didn't need a romance there. Okay, now this was my favorite book of October. So I have been on a super big like T. Kingfisher post. Okay, I've read Nettle and Bone, What Feasts at Night, What Moves the Dead. Oh God, what I think those were the first, and I was like, yes, I'm hooked. So now I've read this one. I have a couple of her books on my Kindle Unlimited, so expect more about her. But this is called A House with the Good Bones. This is horror. It's got the gothic horror. There's mystery. It's got the fantasy, but it's I guess I don't know if paranormal would technically be called more sci-fi or not. Whatever. So main character's name is Sam, who also has anxiety and hypothyroidism. I was like, wow, could I be added any more, T King? Thank you. So her mom has inherited her grandmother's house. Like her grandmother passed away, mom took over the house, and all of a sudden, like, it's just she's not acting the same. She's not acting like herself. And Sam has a brother who's like, hey, I need you to go check on mom. Like, things are weird, right? Weird. Sam gets there. First thing you see is a goddamn vulture. So you know things are gonna get interesting. So it's in this, she's finding out more about her family, wrestling with these visions of things, is helping her mom try to heal, protecting her family. Like, there's so many layers, and it's not a very long book. It's 256 pages. Like, it's a perfect length. I don't understand how T. Kingfisher gets these amazing just stories in these little tiny little things. But it's so good. It's another one I will be buying a physical copy. I need to have it in my collection on my shelf. It's a trophy. But yeah, everything I have read by T. Kingfisher so far, I recommend. So if you are in a reading slump or you're trying to hit your goal for the end of the year, be like, man, I just want a couple of like short books. T. Kingfisher. Say it with me. T. Kingfisher. Okay. No. Done singing my praises, but seriously, go get that book. It's so goddamn good. Now we move into November. Technically, this book I started reading in October, but I did not finish it until November. I read The Whispering Dark by Kelly Andrew. My biggest complaint, I almost DNF'd this book. If I had to hear the phrase glass bones one more goddamn time, I actually should have just like searched in my Kindle to see how many times that phrase was said. In my It's not as bad as Divine Rivals with talking about sandwiches, but it was up there. Okay, so moving on to the point. So our main character's name is Delaney. Like, she is deaf. You immediately find this out. I'm fragile. I'm made of glass. Blah blah blah. So and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like, she has a disability. Like, she feels like she is not enough. That everyone treats her really fragile, which I get. I understand. I wish different language was used. But also, I believe the author is deaf as well, so she's speaking from her own experience, so it's a personal preference thing. But I digress. So, she gets picked, she was going for this, like, program tryout thing to get into a prestigious university, because she wants to go to an actual college. She was homeschooled, and things immediately like go AWOL. Her TA is an asshole to her, um, and just everybody there can see or do unusual things. And when I say unusual, I mean like paranormal unusual. So it's just kind of devolving into that. There is a mystery in there that you're gonna solve. You have the paranormal. There is a little bit of a horror aspect to it. It's not too bad. It's more just like the oh shit, what is happening type thing. And there is a little bit of a romance. The romance in this one didn't the way it progressed made sense. So it felt like it wasn't taking away from anything, because I am not necessarily a romantic girly. I'm like fantasy, and if there's romance, cool, and like if it makes sense, I'm like all right. But like I don't have to have romance be a thing. It can just kind of like if it happens, cool. If it doesn't happen, cool. But yeah, there is a second. I believe it's maybe not quite an exact second book, um, but it happens or takes place in the same world called Your Blood, My Bones, that I will be reading, because the world is really interesting. So I'm excited to see what she does, and hopefully that her writing has grown and that language has kind of changed. Now, I actually have a physical book for this one. We read The Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. I'm just going to read the synopsis because I don't really know how to describe this book without giving it all away. Every night in the college's ancient cemetery, 5 people cross paths as they work the late shift. A bartender, a rideshare driver, a hotel receptionist, and the unofficial steward for the derelict church that looms over them, and the editor-in-chief of the college paper, always in search of a story. One dark October evening, in the defunct churchyard, they find a hole that wasn't there before. A fresh open grave where no grave should be? But who dug it, and for whom? Atmospheric and eerie, with the ensemble cast for her friend's love and delightfully familiar academic backdrop. Graveyard Shift is a modern gothic tale If We Were Villains author. So this boy is 126 pages. I read this in one reading. This was weird. This was a weird little book. I enjoyed it. It was just a strange one. Like I had no idea. Like the twist and turn at the end did not see it coming at all. I feel like sometimes there was a couple of pages where it felt like it was taking too long to say what it was trying to say. Um, so I wish maybe again the language would have been a little bit better. But I do think it is like a good little spooky read. Good autumnal cold read because like it is cold. Like they're talking about how chilly it is outside and what they find what do they call them? The unofficial steward of the church. They're like, dude, you need to like, you can't be staying out here. Like, it's too goddamn cold. So yeah, that is the Graveyard Shift. I would recommend grabbing it. I don't know if it's on Kindle Unlimited. Also, request it from your library if your library doesn't have it. But it was good. I am happy to have it on my shelf. Just a cute little guy on the shelf. Then I read The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This one was, I had no idea what to expect. I said, you know what, fine, we're gonna listen to the hurrahs, and we're gonna read the popular book. Because sometimes I don't read I won't, if it's just like, oh, everybody just likes it just because it's the most popular thing. But I say, you know what, we'll give it a try. I was able to get it from the library. Um, so this one you are following a caseworker, like a DCF. So he works at the department in charge of magical youth. His name is Linus. You meet him right away. He's very quiet, very like, this is my job, this is what I'm doing, I need to help these kids, and then like I'm just here to be clinical, get the deets, give a report, move on to the next one. Like he cares about his job, but he's just going through the motions. Like he's 40, he lives by himself, he has a cat that doesn't seem like she likes him very much, and he just like hangs out, listens to his old records. And then he gets pulled to do a very top secret hush hush case. You can't tell any about it. And this case turns his world on its head. He has to unlearn prejudices. I believe that's pronouncing correctly. Um, just learning acceptance and not making just judgment, and helping to change other people's minds and learn and make them realize that they are being prejudiced. And it is also an LGBTQ romance story. Um, it was very wholesome. Like I enjoyed this way more than I thought I was going to. And there is a specific quote that I really loved. Um, that I highlighted in my Kindle, but it says, a home isn't always the house we live in. It's also the people we choose to surround ourselves with. I live for found family tropes. So like that's what made this book. Like that's what made me tear up. I didn't quite give it a 5 stars. I gave it a 4 out of 5 just because there's some of like the early book that I was like, okay, this is dragging. I want a little bit more fast paced, just like a tiny bit. Um, but it was really really good. I really enjoyed it, and I am looking forward to reading the next one. I don't know how many books are going to be. Let me flip back. Okay, so it looks like there's just a book 2 out for now. Yeah, it just says sequel. It doesn't say an ending to it. Um, but I'm excited to read that and see where this little found family goes. Okay. Then we're going back. I feel like a lot more spooky books in the month of November than I did in October. I don't know how I managed this. So this one is called The Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Canas. I'm not pronunciation, the worst, terrible. Um so this is happening in 1840s Mexico, right? She is the daughter of a rancher. Her name is Nena. Nina. I think it would be pronounced Nena. And she's got her boy. She find out they're little kids. Her and this character, this boy named Nestor, and they go out into the river, like little things out by her house that are like, yeah, this is off limits, like don't go there. And she gets attacked by something. Like first, second chapter this happens. Maybe the first chapter, first couple pages. Um, and he thinks she's dead. And you go back and then like this is years later, you're seeing Nena's point of view. And whatever attacked her, it was not a one-time thing. So there is this, not quite a plague, but this health issue that keeps going through the ranchos, and the people that help them and help take care of the ranches and everything, like, and it's strange. Her grandmother is, the grandmother. It's sometimes unclear if it's just Nestor's grandmother or if it's Nena's, but they're all like, it's very confusing. Um, it had good historical points to it of like how white men would have treated the Mexicans, our main characters, and how they would take their land, and like they're talking about how do we deal with this, which is great, and I thought that was a really important piece. But like just I wish there had been more of the horror of it. I wish there had been more of that versus just kind of the longing between these two characters. I feel like it was too much. Almost like she was, it's almost, as somebody said, it was like she's so in love with her characters, she just doesn't know when to stop like putting that on the page and like take a step back into the story happening outside of their story. And I was like, that was a perfect way of describing it. So I wish she had taken a step back from them and focused on like the, oh shit, things are things are going down. Um, so that's probably the only thing. I think it's still a good read, especially if you're someone who love romance, but you're like, I want a little bit of spooky, I want a little bit of danger. The Vampires of El Norte, probably for you. All right, now my next book. This is the first. So I read a Murakami book 2 months ago at this point. That was my first like translated book I had ever read. Now we have, and that was a Japanese book, Japanese author. Now I have a Korean author. That is for this book called A Magical Girl Retires by Park Seolyeon. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna fuck that up. Um, and this one is, you've got a woman who's 29. She is incredibly depressed. She is in debt. She is in debt after losing her car, like her job. And this is like happening during like the pandemic. Like it very much seems like this is, yes, COVID. It was published in 2022, so probably. Um, and so she's like, you know what? I'm gonna go jump off this bridge, and nobody's gonna care, because she's like, oh, maybe this person will care and will stop me and can sense what I'm about to do. And nobody does until this one person jumps and is like, hey, you! I've been looking for you. Um, and then it travels into, she thought she was the specific magical girl who's gonna help the world. And it is, and then she gets pulled into the world of magical girls. And it's not just like what we think of like the Maha Shoujos and like Sailor Moon and oh my god, it's just whatever. We're just girls off the street. No, there is like a whole infrastructure. Infrastructure? There we go. Infrastructure of how being a magical girl works. So it was really, really interesting to see that take on it and like how in depth it went. I really like that. It's also, you got a queer romance. It's magical realism, which usually magical realism is not my shtick, but I think that this was incredibly well done. I very much so enjoyed that. Um, I think I had a quote saved from it, maybe not. I do have a quote saved from it. It says, "The magic that magical girls want is not to grow into giants or concoct powerful fragrances or manipulate time or to be clairvoyant. It's the power of justice. Magical girls exist because justice does not." Again, this is another one that is super short. I loved it. I really want to go get a copy of it. Also, the cover is beautiful. Like the art, the little bit of art that is in it, mwah, 10 out of 10. It's so gorgeous. I love it. So, yeah, the magical girl retires. All right, we're getting down to the nitty gritty of it. We then moved on to the Lighthouse Witches, which I got from Libby. I was very excited. The Libby app has been immaculate, changing my reading game as far as the library stuff because my library doesn't have a lot, even though it's through the whole state that I live in. Sometimes it's just not as diverse as I would like it to be. So the Lighthouse Witches, we're in Scotland. Like we're going to Scotland, and a lot of things people don't know is like there was witch hunts in Scotland, and they're not like the most popular mainstream thing. So this is like a retelling almost, or and just trying to like educate on that. Who is this by? I forgot to say the name. This is by C.J. Cooke. We're doing so good right now. So our first main character is a single mom named Liv, who has been commissioned to paint a mural in a 100-year-old lighthouse that's on Scotland. On Scotland? In Scotland, on an island. Wow. Sentences hard. Just because I read a lot of words does not mean I'm good with them. So, this lighthouse, you come to find out, it was, let's see how long ago. Never mind, it was 100 years ago. I just said that. Oh my gosh. I don't think I had enough caffeine today. But when they had the witch trials back in the like 1800s, that's where they held the women who were going to be tried. I say tried with quotations because we all know how witch hunts went. 9 times out of 10, it was very rare that they were not convicted. That is where they went to be held. And the other story you hear in this little island, this little town that they're in, is they talk about changelings. Changelings, I think, are super interesting part of folklore. And I thought it was really interesting the way it works in this story. It's not changelings in the way that we know them as the folklore, where, oh, the Fae left you a Fae baby and they took your human baby and you have to figure it out and get them switched for a certain amount of time or you're stuck with the Fae child. Um, so I thought it was incredibly interesting and not a twist that I saw coming at all. Um, it's you've got a thriller to it. You've got a young character trying to find her way in the world, dealing with the pressures of, boys and things like that. You have the other character, the middle sister, who is dealing with, like, you first immediately find out, like, almost right away that she's going to be a mom herself. So she's wrestling with these things from her childhood because everything is just, it goes nuts. It is a wild story. I I never saw the twist coming, and I always appreciate that in a book. I love to be bamboozled. Okay, I always want to not be able to figure out to a degree figure out what's going on in the book. Like I should be able to follow it, but if you get that twist and you make me put my book or my Kindle down and go, damn, you did a good job. Again, that was the Lighthouse Witches. All right. Then I started reading I read the first one back in September. It was The Problem with Pixies, and this is part of the Homesteader Hearth Witch series by Kat Healy. Healy. I again cannot pronounce them things to save my life. So I read book 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It is still, so you have your main character, Missy. Um she is in this little town and she's trying to save her family by getting whatever the hell cursed her family's grimoire out of there. And it's just, I can't. It's just so good. They're all really really short. They're like 150 pages maybe. Very very short ones. I think the last one might have been like 250, so it amped up a little bit. But you're just following her kind of going on this quest. You're seeing her interact with the townspeople and maybe falling. Oh my god, falling for a shifter, which in her family, big no no, like absolutely big no no. We don't do that, and it's just cute. And also then we get the drama that happens. It's good. I really enjoy it. It's a quick little read. Like I can just hang out. I'm not like, I guess I don't have to use too much of my brain because it's so well written and so short that I'm just like, oh, okay, cool, got it. Those are all on Kindle Unlimited. Highly recommend them. Really love that series. I will probably actually purchase copies of the Kindle editions for myself because it's so short. It would be such an easy reread when you're having a slump, you know? All right. My last book of November, which was a 5-star read, another 5-star, is My Throat an Open Grave. Oh, I cannot tell you why. This book, it didn't make me cry, but there was a connection. There was something in that I connected to so hardcore with, and I loved it. I'm 100% purchasing that. I'm gonna look and see if there's any pretty editions. Um, so the first line of this, it says Labyrinth meets folk horror and this darkly romantic tale of a girl who wishes her baby brother away to the Lord of the Woods. So she's like out in the middle of Pennsylvania, okay? It's like you gotta go to church every Sunday. Like you have to be a good girl. You can't do anything that would cause you to sin. Like no, can't, no no. No sinning, only good vibes. Um and she's was taken out of school, like she was homeschooled, she was sick for a while, she's going back to school. She just feels like she doesn't belong, and she's worried about, or the town is worried about the Lord of the Woods who would steal babies, and the town would send sisters or mothers like after them to be like, you need to go get that baby back. And in my head I just immediately started, you want that baby back, baby back, baby back ribs. Really fucked up joke, thank you brain. And so she's having to babysit her brother all the time when her mom's working, but and herself, she's either in school, at work, trying to go to church and be good. And the brother's screaming and screaming and screaming and screaming. And she just, without, really thinking of, oh, well, this, the Lord of the Woods isn't real, but like, man, I wish he would take this baby. And unfortunately, it do happen. It do be like that sometimes. Um, and so then she's going through and dealing with the consequences from the town, her mom, the priest, the church, of what she has done without really meaning to, and it it just unfolds more. There are horror mentions of like she sees ghosts at one point and like what those ghosts look like, and finding out what happened to them. So it does have some things that are very, very stressful. So just take care of yourself when you go to read that. Just you'll kind of, I would recommend look up trigger warnings if you're like, I don't know if this would be for me. Especially because like the religion aspect and religious trauma, that could be a lot. I just want you to be safe, but I do think it was an incredible book, and it was incredibly well written, and I'm normally the person that I can like finish a book, and I can like within the same day I can start another book. I had to like marinate. Like I finished it when I was at work, and like normally I'd be like, "Oh, like a couple hours later I'll start a book." Nope, I'm pretty sure I started to read a manga that was like just kind of chill and silly, because I was like, oh, this was a heavy, heavy book in that way. But I really loved it. And there's, yeah, just I don't have religious trauma. I didn't grow up in the church or anything. I just some of the other things, I guess her being like, or feeling like she's in the gray area of the suicidal thoughts. Not to get too deep and make y'all sad or anything, but I can relate to that so much, and I think that's why it hit me just right in the heart. And I don't know, there was something about it. I feel like I'll get more hints and things out of it on a second read. I'm just gonna, so we're letting it marinate. We're just letting it sit, and probably sometime next year I will be rereading it. But that's it. We have We've made it through, kids. That is all of our October and November books. I would love to know if you have read them. What are your thoughts? Like, or which ones sound interesting to you? Are you gonna pick up some of the physical copies? Are you gonna bug your local library about them? Yelling. Um, but yeah, thank you for listening to my rambling. I'm sorry that this is a longer video than usual. It's just had bad vibes about how the last video when I recorded it went. And I just wanted something that I felt good about, and I feel pretty good about this one. As always, please make sure you're taking care of yourself. Remember, you're important, and drink some water because we're all big, weird, giant plants. Um, and yeah, also too, seasonal depression. So don't let the sad get you down. And I will see you next time.